All right, hello everyone. This is Josh, also known as Yashu. You're just tuning into another episode of the TLOY Talks podcast. You can get this on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, much more. Definitely check it out on Patreon. There's like a lot of like different tiers, like depending on how much you're paying and all that too. So basically, highest tier you're gonna get like a lot of like content from me, a lot of like other perks as well too. The basic one you're gonna just get the basic stuff too, but like definitely check that out to support. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, like follow, like on all platforms. Like definitely like check it out from there. And yeah, I'm just gonna get it like started right here. So we have an artist in the city that's making a wave with this whole like cinematic like trap sound. He has dropped like singles like Too Much, Burnin', has released like a lot of like previous stuff like Blinging 2023, has performed with the likes of Saya, Alexander Panetta, Walter Florence, and much more. We have Real in the building. How are you doing today, man?
Yes, sir. I'm doing great. Big entrance. Big
Yeah, man.
entrance. I was like, you know those the boxing entrances?
Yeah.
Where they do the whole I felt like that. Yeah, man. How you doing today?
I've been doing all right, man. Like just been like busy and all that too. Like just like pumping like content like here and there and all that. Basically when I did like a little bit more like research on you, like the whole like cinematic like trap stuff, that is like very like interesting too to even like have like that like little like label and all that too, because it's something like not a lot of artists like have like nowadays. So there's like cinematic like rap and all that too. You could get that from Larry June's, Rock Marciano's, but trap
Yeah.
like it's crazy to see and all that too. And like I know like you're a rising like an artist like in the underground scene and all that with like a lot of the stuff from your shows, from your events and much more too. And it's amazing to see and all that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Hell yeah. I mean, like where we started with like the cinematic trap stuff. I mean, it's been mostly me, but people in and out, whether it's producers or artists that I kind of shop the sound to a little bit. It came from me like loving trap as the sound, but I noticed it got boring. People started like if you notice nowadays in the underground, people reciprocate more towards rage and sexy drill now, right? So I
Yeah.
was like, I need something where I can kind of bring this back in a different way. And the whole cinematic idea is because like I'm all about hustling with my audience, with the people that listen to me, my potential audience. It's all about like getting that motivational energy out of them, and that in and of itself is like a cinematic concept. You know what I mean? So that's where it really came from.
Yeah, that's facts, man. No, it's amazing to see. And I mean, you're caving like your own lane for people to check out too, and like that's something that you should do like as an artist too, to get people to tap in with a sound that they want to like tap in like first and all that too. Like you don't want to be like another like carbon copy and all that. And
Facts.
it's amazing to see and all that. And I want to discuss like, a little bit more about like your upbringing for a bit too. So like, where'd you grow up in the city, and like what was like the environment like for you like growing up at the time?
Yeah, so I was not born here. I was born in Tehran in Iran. Honestly, like I grew up there. The sound wasn't rap at all, right? Like it was a lot of like love songs and all that. Honestly, I was kind of like sick and tired of it when I was a kid. And then I moved here when I was like 9. Was never really in the city too much. It was mostly like York region, whether it was Richmond Hill or those areas, the fucking Persian community. You guys know what I'm talking about. And there, like, as I came here and as I assimilated to the culture a little bit, in Canada, I discovered rap, and it was like a mind blowing moment because it's like at the time for me, it was the only genre that I noticed where you could talk about like anything. You know what I mean? And that's like it gravitated me towards it, and that's how I ended up, here because I still listen to a lot of stuff from Persian culture from back home, but rap is just different, man. Like it gravitated towards it heavily because of that reason.
Yeah. And like I know with like Iran and all that too, like I know like they dealt with like the whole like Islamic like revolution and all that too. That was like the 1970s, and I think it's been going in like in tangents like there and then. So like I guess like when you moved, was it like around like the 90s or the 2000s?
So it was pretty recent. It was 2013.
Okay.
But exactly what you said, man. Like if people aren't too aware of like the situation in Iran, ever since the revolution, it's been a lot of bullshit happening. Like our government is straight up a dictatorship. It's masked as like a democracy, but it's a dictatorship. And unfortunately, like as time has gone by, it's been more and more and more oppressive, and just like especially like economy wise, man. Like people can't survive there. So my parents, like 10 years, 11 years ago, they decided like, fuck it, let's come to Canada because there's really no future there right now. And I only can like pray for the people at home and back home, like whether it's relatives or family, because like the situation is bad, man. Like you think like here is getting bad in Canada economy, man. Like go there, it's like somebody's month wages Maybe like a
Um,
fourth of it goes towards like getting a pizza. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Because you actually came like at a very like interesting time, like in 2015 and all that, where I mean Vine was like on the come up too, like ASAP Rocky, Kendrick, Drake were like at their peak and all that too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people were like interested like in like different styles and all that. Like Grand Theft Auto like five like came up like around that time too. So like what was like the change like from like seeing like the norms and all that, like living in Canada as opposed to like living like in Iran and all that. Like,
Yeah, man. I think cultural shift. One thing that was very apparent here was like the freedom of speech, which is like, you know, not to get too political again, but I mean sometimes you have to, right? Like I think here the way everything was so expressive around like YouTube, Vine, all of that, like it was like almost like it was like an expansion in my mind. You know what I mean? Like I was one of those kids on YouTube like all the time and like peeping creators, whether it's comedy or whatever. And then music wise, oh my god, like you talk about 2015, man. I started falling in love with it slowly, and I grew up in like a pretty white neighborhood, right? Like kids weren't getting onto like rap or anything up until like high school, right? So like I was like onto it early on when I was in like grade, I don't know, 5, 4, maybe 7, 8, and it was like crazy hearing people like Kendrick, like your Drakes, like your Coles, and like I slowly started to fall in love with them. And like you said, they were at their peaks, and it was like crazy witnessing that as a kid. And I've always been like astounded by like arts, you know what I mean, when it comes to especially communication. So something like rap where you're like writing, like somebody like Kendrick, man, like the way he writes, it was like mind blowing. It was like a mind blowing moment for me when I
yeah.
came here to sum it up.
Yeah, that's facts, man. And I mean, like even like growing up with like, what were you like from like the start of birth until like now and all that? You know?
Too much of a good kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a very shy kid when I was growing up. Um but my interest in arts was always there from the start. Like I mean, I've been playing the piano since I was like 7, and like I had a natural talent for it, but yeah, since birth to here, it was kind of like I was more shy. I wasn't really that expressive up until I got older, but that like love for arts was always there for me off rip. And it really just boiled down to the idea of like creating, you know, creating something out of literally nothing and out of thin air is mind blowing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
from there, I started like getting into it a little bit. Started, you know, writing your little bullshits when you're a kid. And then at like 15, 16 was where I was like, okay, like I really have to do this because I cannot sit at a fucking school desk. I could not do
Yeah.
that. So I was like, nah, fuck this. We have to, you know, get on something like this. And that's kind of how I got to this point
Yeah,
now
for
where
sure.
yeah, building confidence over time as well. But the background in arts was always there from like a young age.
Yeah, for sure. Were there like some artists or genres that you kind of like listened to, like you know, like kind of like growing up? Like I know you said like the love songs, and then you transitioned on to like listening to like Kendrick, Drake, ASAP, like around that time too. So
Yeah, well, I mean, like when I was a kid, funny enough, I wasn't like into music, like listening to it actively like that at all. But it was more so in the sense of like playing the piano was heavy for me when I was a kid. But like the first genre that I really got into was genuinely just like hip hop. Cause I don't know, I was like 9, 10 or something. And like I was hearing these rap songs. Funny enough, like some corny shit for real, but like I think the first rap song that like really stuck with me was like "The Ceiling Can't Hold Us" by Macklemore, which like looking back is a hella corny choice, but um, like that's kind of what introduced it to me, and then I got into all the different avenues of rap, and like that was the first genre that I could say I fell in love with. You know what I mean? That was the first, and I mean now it's more like soul and jazz. I love some pop, R&B, but like hip hop is like, you know, it's like that one true love. You know what I mean? It's the first love.
yeah, for sure. And like you know, usually with like artists too, like they become like consumers until they become like creators and all that too. Like they start off consuming, like checking out the stuff and all that too. So at one point, did you start like rapping and like making music as like a creator, like in that sense too, like you know, wanting to create music like at the time?
For fun, definitely started at like 11, 12, right? You're writing your little bullshits, like your raps. You see somebody make a rap song or like the YouTube, you know, the YouTube era. If
Yeah,
people remember like the
yeah,
KSIs, the Quadekas,
yeah,
like you see they're doing it, you're like, why should I not try, right?
yeah.
But like seriously, um, it was when I was 16, so like around 2020. That's when I started like creating it. Because before I was playing the piano, I was an avid listener. Like I definitely had more understanding of music than like your average Joe, you know, at the supermarket or something. But that's when I started really getting into it, where I'm creating, I'm writing, I'm learning how to sing and rap and all that, and like finally starting to like improve and take it seriously was like 16 and like 2020.
Okay, that's cool, man. And
Yeah.
were you like the only one in your family that like made music, or like in your friend group, or were there like any other like family members or like friends like growing up at the time that like made like music at the time?
My family on my dad's side, especially like his generation, his brothers and sisters, they're very artistic. Like my dad himself, like he played a bunch of traditional like instruments, and he has a very good ear for music. As a matter of fact, like funny enough, it was very unexpected, but my dad was like the one who kind of like really went along with me trying to be an artist, right? Because he kind of like he's the one who heard something in me, and he saw like my improvement and like my progress and my trajectory really. But yeah, my dad huge in music, and played a lot. Never really got into it like professionally or anything, but definitely like knows multiple instruments, has a good ear for it. And my cousins on my dad's side as well, they have that as well. Like they're, whether they're singing or whatever, but mostly on my dad's side. And friends wise, honestly, no. Like I was pretty much the only one who was like diving into this.
Yeah, for sure. Because I know, like, even like in high school, or like even like just like with peers and all that too. Like, there's like people that like will rap like in the cafeteria, like do like the beats like with their hands and all that too.
Yeah.
Others like they'll freestyle like off like a song like on YouTube and all that too. But like even like initially like from that jump to like when you said like, hey, like I'm gonna like take this like seriously and all that too. Like I'm gonna make this like an actual thing. Did people like tend to like look at it like the wrong way? Like, yo, you're not gonna make it, or yo, like I don't think this might be like the fit and all that.
100%, man. It's like it's definitely like a high school thing to do, to like, oh, I'm gonna be a rapper, or I'm gonna be an artist, right? No, at first you definitely get clown, like you get all that, but once you start doing it for real, especially because like I wasn't popular, when I was younger. Like, especially in high school, I was very introverted. You know what I mean? I kind of like broke out of that shell a little bit more when I was out of high school, but in high school, it's not like it was like direct clowning or anything. But even like some of my close friends, they thought it was just like a phase or something, right? But then like, as you get good and as time goes on and you show like, yo, I'm really serious about this, then it was like, whoa, like this guy's getting good. You know what I mean? But funny enough, we didn't have that culture like cafeteria shit in my school that much. It wasn't really that apparent. Like it wasn't like that for me. Because again, like I think my school, it was a lot very different than like schools you might see downtown, like York or anything.
Yeah.
Because it was so far north. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like the kids that were like more so like gaming and all that too, or like they're with their peer group and all that, like grabbing like McDonald's and like coming back and all that. So
yeah, there you go.
Times, yeah, man.
Exactly, that's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah. And yo, like what inspired you to like rap and like even like make music and like, even take it as like a profession and all that?
Money. Nah. It's hard to say, man. Like it's genuinely like impossible to say. I think every artist has that part within them, who like, at least the artists that take it seriously. There's definitely like a selfishness there where you got to be fucking delusional to think people should give a fuck about your art. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy to genuinely think, especially when you're shit. It's really worse when you're shit. Yeah. But like to think that people should pay money for your art is almost like delusional. So I think a part of it does have to do with like you seek attention, not necessarily in a bad way, but the same way how like somebody might seek validation from their coworkers. I think it's more so you seek validation of your creativity. I think that's really where it comes from. And another part for me, like I wanted to be an athlete when I was like younger, right? But I was not that athletic. So I realized, hey, this is not going to work out. A big part of probably why I got into music seriously is because I knew that I could not do a fucking desk job. Like I just knew that. And I wanted to be the type to like be on my own schedule. So I think that transferred a little bit into like my decision. But it's just pure love at the end of the day too.
Yeah, no, that's facts, man. And like, even with like influences too and all that, like a lot of like artists like nowadays, like they have like an influence. So who are you like mainly like influenced by, and like who would you like to work for someday like musically?
Three that like stand out and kind of like meshed my sound is J. Cole, Lil Baby, and Don Toliver nowadays. A little bit of Kenny Mason too, but those guys it's like I took some things from them. Like Lil Baby, his hunger, his flows, shit like that. I heavily took from that. Like Cole, his lyricism. Kenny Mason is like new sound, his the type of things he's doing. Don Toliver too, like his melodies, his sound. Artists that I want to work with, those guys that I just mentioned for sure. But like I'm not necessarily like dying to work with anybody. I definitely want it to be more so a thing where like I reach that status myself and it comes naturally. Like I wouldn't be like begging to work with any of them. I would love for it to be like a reciprocal type of thing where they want to work with me too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But probably like Cole. Working with Cole would be insane.
Yeah, no, that's facts. Like when you talked about like Kenny Mason, it was actually interesting too because I actually had like a very like crazy like interaction with Kenny like circle wise and all that too because when I did like photography and all that, I actually shot a show back in 2022 when he was like in
Word?
Toronto. Yeah,
Damn, that's crazy.
like he was in Toronto back in like 2022 for like at the Access Club for like a show and all that. Like it went well, and I think
Damn.
he's performing with Denzel like
Yeah.
sometime like this year and all that too.
I think in like a month he's performing, or maybe it might be this month.
Yeah, it might be this month
Yeah.
too and all that. And then I actually checked out his DJ and like he makes like good music and all that too. He goes by David X. And funny enough, I actually interviewed his DJ like last year and all that too, where chopped it up, like discussed like a lot about his stuff, like his upbringing and all that. You could like access it like on the channel too. And I mean, he is like very like cool with like Kenny. Like he has like produced like even like some major like hits from it, and like he produced Clubhouse with Jaleel and like Mike Dimes and all that, and like a lot of like other artists too. So like you never know, you're never gonna know like who you're gonna meet and all that too, which it is like amazing because when you think about it, like you think like horizontally and all that to connect with who you can connect with like easily and all that, and you know if it works, you know. So
yeah, I know that's crazy. I didn't know that you had that connection actually, because I think one thing about Kenny Mason is like his team is very strong too, and they have the same vision he has, and I think that's lent itself really well to his success because even you talked about his DJ. What was the name again?
David X actually.
David X, yeah. David X is one of those guys where like he shares that vision, and then also Coop as well, the producer. Like these guys, they share that vision so well, and I think that's lent itself well to like why he has the sound he has and why his vision and his mind has like come to fruition so well. Is you got to have a good team, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like you and David X would actually make like a very like good collab and all that too, because like even when we're talking about like the whole like Kenny like Mason like influence too, I see that with David X and all that, and like I know he's gonna be like one of the rising acts that will make like a unique sound. Like I mean, he even did like a song with one of the artists from like the Yang Twins and all that. So it is like amazing to see and all that. No, so
yeah, man, maybe we'll make something. We'll see.
Sure, man. As far as like your creative process goes, so like how's that like when making music, and like what would like a day like in making music be like?
Always starts with, nowadays it's been like me producing myself mostly. If I do have a beat, can crush on that a little bit too, but usually it just starts with me sitting down and like just playing a chord or something on my piano that has the emotion that I feel at that time, and that translates into like a piece of a beat. And then these all just sit in my files, and like I'll go through them sometimes, and I slowly work on multiple things at the same time. And then these slowly like turn into songs, right? But one thing about me, my process is so damn slow, like my creative process, because I'll take a beat, maybe it's from like 10 months ago, 2 years ago or something, and I still haven't written to it because I'm working on so many different things at the same time. But it's definitely very slow. And then even when it looks like a day in making music for me, when I write, what I do, and I recommend for artists that are watching this, you should try this tactic too. If it's a song that's supposed to be very deep or like very near and dear to you, I kind of sequence it. So I go like, okay, what's the main message of the song? And then you bring up the points that you want to write about in that song. So let's say I'm writing a love song and I want to talk about how I met this girl, right? Meeting the girl is one point of the song, and then the first kiss or something becomes the next point. And then you got to find a way to link these points together on the like song map. And then furthermore, from there, you just turn that into the actual lyrics. So maybe you start off with whatever, but you got to try to find a way to kind of like forge those lyrics in a way where they end up becoming every point of that song and turning the song into, a song, you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I do often to make the deeper songs, especially. And it turns out really well for me personally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know like some people too, like they'll use like AI with like the songwriting like process too, using it as like an enhancer to kind of like find like a good start, like whether it's like, with ChatGPT and all that, or like they play with like, different words, like different cadences and all that too. Like some do like improv where like I know others like they'll use like one word, then they go with another word, and then they try to think of like another word and all that, or they think of like one sound and then with another sound too. So like sometimes like that works that way. Like others, it's like they'll like look at like other artists that they're working with, like if they're like cross collabing, like see how they're doing it, and like they take that and like put it within the songwriting too, so it works out from there.
Yeah,
so.
but I'm not a fan of use of ChatGPT though, and like AI with music, because I think that's always gonna box you in to turning your music into somebody else's music. Because at the end of the day, AI, it's a algorithm that learns, right? So all it's doing is picking up everything that's ever been created. You can't really create more from there. Creativity to me has to come from you. You can have your influences for sure, but I
Yeah.
think using AI in writing, big no for me.
Yeah. I mean, others like they'll use like books or like they'll read like like different like styles and all that.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
they check out like different songs and like they see like how like the lyrics go, like how like the stanzas are. It's, like some do like pre bridges, some do like pre choruses and all that. Others like they'll have like maybe like a one bridge here and then like they'll have like the chorus like at the end or one bridge here, another bridge there. Like it all like depends on like the bridge, chorus, like bridge and all that. So just all depends on the style and all that. So
100%. Yeah, I think I mean we draw inspiration from almost thin air, right? So
yeah.
some people use books, whatever it is, and turn it into a song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like even as far as like your stage name too, to even like give it like that cinematic feel. Like how'd you get your stage name like real and all that?
When I was like younger and just bullshitting the music thing, it started as real perspective. Because my whole thing was like one thing I've been from even a young age is like very honest and like truthful, and I'm I'm very I feel a way when I'm deceiving people. Like, of course you do it here and there, but like it doesn't sit well with me. And I was seeing that a lot in the rap world, especially when I like came up with that name. I was seeing so many people, like we talked about this with Lofsky on his podcast too, and he just released a clip about it. You see all those guys that are like pretending to be hood, pretending to be whatever, to like try to make a name for themselves, and it just like it breathes like on authenticity. You know what I mean? And I hated like seeing that, and I hated people falling for that. So like I came up with that name or real perspective as a way to be like, okay, I keep it, I keep it real with you, I keep it 100. But then on the other hand, it's like I have the vision to go far. As I got older, real perspective, that sounds corny as fuck. So I was like, okay, let's trim it down to just real, and drop the A, turn it to a E, and few meanings behind it too. Real as in like truth, honesty, but real also is in like reeling in what you manifest, right? I have this vision of being a damn billionaire. You know what I mean? And I'm slowly reeling that in. I'm manifesting it through my actions and my thoughts too.
Yeah, that's facts. And I mean, tapping in with like Lofsky too and all that because I know like he's kind of like an OG like in the whole like Toronto underground sound. Like I know he had like one of the biggest like features of like all time with like Mick Jenkins and like Lucky and all that too.
Yeah.
So like how's that like like even like tapping in with him and all that?
Hell yeah, man. With him, I mean, I was blessed to like get to work with him, and too. Funny enough, one of my boys met him just like randomly, and then he was like, "Oh, I saw this guy. He mentioned that he does music too." Just came up in conversation, and then he linked me up with him. So I didn't really meet him through like the typical seeing him at a show or like through my other connections. It was fucking random, but we've been working on some shit behind the scenes too. We're working on bringing real freestyles back. So you guys can be on the lookout for that too. We're gonna do like freestyling right off the dome. No more like written freestyles and anything. But yeah, with him, he's a guy who I like his authenticity too, and like he's just himself, and he's funny as fuck, bro. I don't know if you kicked it with him before, but this guy is so jokes. Like you die like kicking it with him for like even 30 minutes. You know what I mean? But it's been great working with him, and hopefully we'll work on music too besides the freestyles.
Yeah, I'm sure because he's like like the OG of like the whole like Toronto like underground stuff like sound. Like I know you have like Come Down like which were like popular from like high school days and all that. I mean Trey Gold, who's like one of like the biggest like forces like in the scene, like with the whole like Beat Kid stuff going on too. And then you have like a lot of like the younger acts like coming up. Like you have like 10K Moss, like Wavy Jackson, K-Rose, who now goes by like Scar and all that now. I think also like Quasi, like I know like Quasi's like doing this thing too. Like I wouldn't call him like underground too, but like he's like within like the whole like sound and all that. And like I mean, there's like even like a lot of like younger ones too, like Burger WYMS, and then you have like Moneyway and all that, Wish God, like a lot of them are doing their thing and all, so.
Yeah, no, shout out to all those guys. I mean, some of them I've heard more, some of them I heard less. But like a few of those guys, like even, I've been kicking it with them. Like Moneyway, I just recently seen his clips. You guys did the podcast recently, and with him, like we went to the same school, like in the same program, and then we saw each other at the show. It was like, yo, what the fuck is you? Damn, what's going on? But yeah, shout out to him too. He's got mad potential. Wish God to all them guys, and like even the bigger acts that you mentioned, all like huge potential. It's just all about like being able to communicate our vision to the audience. That's where it comes in, because a lot of these guys have talent. You know what I mean? It's undeniable.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like even with the whole like cinematic like trap stuff too. I know we discussed like about it like earlier too, but like what like inspired you to even take on that specific sound and like even like go through with that like drive and all that to kind of make it happen?
It's a really good question. A big part of it came from like my influences. I made this one playlist and I was like, what is it about the production, especially of these tracks and like the writing that like made me fall in love with these songs. You know what I mean? It was songs like what's it? I hate remembering like the names of the songs, but it's like a bunch of songs by like Big Sean too, where he's like, oh, Higher, for example, by Big Sean, Avatar by Kenny Mason, My Life by J. Cole. What is it about these songs that make me so like inspired by them and like motivate the fuck out of me? Because what I've always been trying to do is like I want to let the audience feel my hunger. You know what I mean? Like I'm hungry for this shit. You know what I mean? So I wanted to like communicate that to people. And I studied these songs. I'm like, what is it about these that all of them have like different instruments or whatever it is, or like different vibes, but they all have that same effect on me. And I realized that like it's that cinematic aspect of it where like, especially the chords, if we want to get technical here, the chords are different, man. Like the chords are so it's like a movie. That's where the cinematic part comes in. It's like a movie. It's like you're watching the montage of somebody going through that hard work time before like the show day. You know what I mean? And that's what I took as like an influence to make my sound. And the trap part is like I've been loving that shit since I was like, the 12. You know what I mean? So like I always wanted to keep that alive a little bit, and especially like the drum patterns of that. But even the writing too, man. Like I want people to feel my hunger and my drive. Like I want to motivate whoever's. Even I communicate to them directly. I'm like, yo, why are you sitting on your ass? Like you hearing this song, it's time to get up. You know what I mean? So that's where this all comes from. It's that communication of hunger.
It's facts, man. Was it same like even with like some of the stuff like talking too much, like burning?
Same idea, but they were less polished just because I'm just finding my sound a little bit with these. I feel like off rhyming, no. Off rhyming was a little bit. It was a little bit derivative of like other styles for sure, but I think burning and like talking too much, I produced those myself as well, and they were more like on the rage side. I think I was getting influenced by that a little bit more when I was making those ones, but the idea was always the same. It's like if you listen to those songs, there's that underlying like musical buildup that makes it sound like that. You know what I mean? But I'm trying to go a little bit more organic nowadays with like instruments I'm using.
Yeah,
I got a track coming soon that's got more of that like horns or like piano, you know what I mean? Like less synth oriented.
yeah, no, that's facts. Was it like kind of like the same like creative process too and all that? Like I know like with the creative process, like it usually goes through the same like pattern. Others, it's like for a different album, like different single and all that too. So like it all depends on the vibe and all that. So
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, same process. Just
okay,
like you start with something, add to it, add to it, add to it, come back to it, add to it, and that's how like all of those came about.
okay, that's facts.
Yeah.
And to speak like on other stuff like blinging 2023, like what inspired you to work on those and what made you step away from creating like tracks like that?
I think I realized like first of all, it was something like 2023 or blinging. The intention was there for sure, but I feel like I wasn't creative enough yet. Like blinging, I did produce myself. 2023, I didn't. But those tracks were. By the way, how did you find 2023? Because it's not even up anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you
Some
talked about
sneaky
that
shit.
on your Spotify bio and all that too, because I remembered when you were like talking about like the whole like cinematic trap stuff, you kind of used that with the other stuff, and then blinging in like 2023, like those were kind of like old stuff that you want to like leave that like in the vault and all that.
I see. Because I was like, where'd this guy find 2023? But I think those ones are. They have that intention of like the same intention of like drive and motivation and hunger, but the sound is a lot more derivative. Like 2023 just sounds like your typical New York beat and hungry ass lyrics, but that's taken down now. Blinging the production isn't as polished. It sounds like a mix between like a Lil Baby derivative track and there was hints of like creativity there, but I don't think it had the legs. You know what I mean? It's not gonna last you like 10 years into the future, which I think like talking too much or burning will definitely do more. So I don't think they're there yet either. I think I'm still like, I finally realized that like I need to be creating even better things because you always think you're better than you are. But I think they have more potential to last 5-10 years than blinging or 2023. You know?
Yeah, nah, say no more, man. And like to even speak more about the whole like performance scene knowledge because you performed like alongside like Saya, who used to go by like Saya Hendricks and all that, like
Yeah.
Alexander Panetta, Walter Florence. So like, how did those come about? And tell me more about that experience. Performing and like even like being on stage.
Well, all those guys that I performed with was actually from this show that is discontinued now by Cher, Chris Fino. He goes by Baston now, and Jared. So it was burner set, right? And all these guys, I got to perform with them early on, and when I was fucking ass, so it was a little bit bad timing.
Yeah.
But for in terms of shows, man, like I never intended to get into it, but then I realized how powerful they are as I slowly did. It's a different feeling being on stage, man. Like, I wish I realized the power of it earlier, but when you're on stage, like you can really invite people into your world and into your mind, your creative mind. You know what I mean? Like for me personally, I try to take people on a bit of a roller coaster emotionally, where you got the parts of the track where it's hype as fuck, we're jumping around, and communicating to them, hey, like y'all get up, da 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 da. And trying to control the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you have parts where you come down and like you're on your knees, you're fucking singing your heart out. You know what I mean? It's different being on stage. I highly recommended it. You know what I mean? So it's been a pleasure to like even do quoted. I've done what have I done? I've done burner set. I've done other ones too that I'm forgetting now.
Yeah,
but
fuck the numbers. I know
fuck
there's
the numbers
also,
I didn't do yet. I don't know if I should get into that. Do we want to go into the like controversy or no?
Yeah, like I guess like with that platform, like have you noticed like any issues with them or any like in the Toronto like underground stuff and all that?
I think with fuck the numbers, they go against what like they're preaching. And again, man, like I wasn't trying to start this, but these are my true thoughts. Bro, like the whole point was fuck the numbers, but then you see how they're only fucking with people that got motion. Even with me, bro. Like, I remember I was asking to get, put on a show or something. Me and my boy Young Vivid, shout out Young Vivid. We were asking to like get put on a show, and we pretty much got snubbed. Like DMs not responded to, da 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 da. And then when they want to share their stuff, sending it to DMs, da 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 da. And then beyond that, like when I finally made some motion with like Burn and talking too much, and I was seeing traction a little bit, finally building my fan base. Then I see them reposting it. And I'm like, so what happened to fuck the numbers? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, hey, man, to each their own. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just me. That's just me.
Because I actually found out something that I was actually conversating with like another person on the podcast like a while back too, and like he said it's actually run by like the same guy who's like performing like at all the shows and all that. I think Virgo Parks or something like that too. So it's like it's kind of crazy how you're putting like this like main character like in all these like shows and all that too, because it's like you could give like someone a chance, be like behind the scenes and all that too, but I feel like you have to be seen, like it's your platform, like you want to be seen like in that way too. But to each their own, like as you said too. I remember there was like something that happened like a while back too, like in their show back in like August or September and all that, where I think they had to like cancel the show or something like that too, like mid performance, like I think a fight broke out or something like that too. So
yeah, man. I mean, there's I can't really blame them for that because this shit happens. It's a hip hop show, man. Like it's a hip hop show. At the end of the day, you're gonna get that here and there. But my whole thing was like the messaging, I thought, and like I don't want to say which show I was talking to, but I don't know if they want this out. But the whole fuck the numbers thing apparently started because the creator Virgo felt like he was being disrespected by this other show, or like he wasn't being put on or something. When they clearly like had like helped him out or put him on or whatever. And then he went on like we went on a rant in like the group chat or some shit, and then he went and created fuck the numbers, right? But then I think it's actually straying away from the message, But not to focus solely on fuck the numbers, because at the end of the day, man, you got to do what you got to do. If they're eating, they're eating. I mean, I can only pray for them. You know what I mean? Like blessings for them.
Yeah. Like what I'm seeing right now, like like just to even like speak more on like the whole show stuff too, because I know like a lot of like the underground stuff, like they're doing it like at supermarket, whether it's there, whether it's at Tail of the Junction, like more so like recently too, and like or if it's like Prime Note like studios and all that too. So I feel like it is like good, but like you don't want to like perform like at the same like free studios like all the time too. You want to like kind of blend in, like whether it's like you could like do it like in Parkdale or whether you could like do it in the East End or like, the North End too and all that too. I think it could be good. Like I also like did like some ranting too for a bit where like why do they have like at least like 12 to like 13 like artists like performing in like
don't fucking get me started.
it's like they start from like 9 o'clock or like they open like doors at like 9 or 10 and they like close like at 2-3 p.m. Like some they open at 7 to like 11 too, but I feel like it is like kind of bad like in terms of like even accessing the money too because like everyone's gonna do like the GA or they're gonna buy like the main headliner and like everyone else is getting like scraps and all that. Like I said, like hey, like maybe have like 4 or like 3 instead rather than like 12 or 13 and all that too, to kind of like do well with like timing and to get like a better like show effect too. Like some agreed, others it's like they're not gonna like respond to it too.
Yeah.
And to each their own. Like as you said, I think the reason why they're doing the 12 to 13 is to not be on the whole like gatekeeper like shit and all that. But
I don't think that's what it is, man. I think it's because look, at the end of the day, it's a business, and I can only like I praise it. At the end of the day, be hustle, get your money. But the issue is like if you have 4 artists, at the end of the day, this is an underground, right? Most people are bringing few fans. If you have 4 artists, you're not even gonna fucking break even. You know what I mean? So like you're kind of forced to do like 15 artists.
Yeah.
But at the same time, then what happens when you do that? It's like a bit of a cycle because then you have 15 artists and then people get fucking tired. They don't really put focus and attention into each artist. It just feels like another artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to kind of, I guess there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel because my brother Hudson Wave and his DJ working on something to feature a few artists, like 4, and make it an experience. You know what I mean? Again, no disrespect to the underground scene at all and like the organizers. And somebody like quoted like I appreciate them very heavily for what they do, and I love them, man. Like they put me on when like I wasn't shit. You know what I mean? And not to be like taken that way, but I do think that like the underground show scene, it needs to change up a little bit to be more effective. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit of a, let's say, feedback, evaluation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, nah. Agree to like disagree like the way too. But even then, like the idea of like performing, there's like a lot of artists that want to get into the whole like performing etiquette. There's like a lot of people that want to like go to like shows like just like that. So what are some like do's and don'ts about like performing live and like even like concert etiquette that you would like to like share?
Okay. Fucking be on time. Don't be like me today. Be on time. Learn to like communicate with the crowd beyond just performing your song. Like don't just perform your song and that's it. And practice beforehand. Very, very important. You don't want to run out of breath. You don't want to forget the words. I made that mistake before when I was doing burner set early on. Some of the do's, I think it's very, and I'm gonna say one of the do's, like talk to the audience, man. Like you have to realize like people don't care about your music yet. Like 90% of the people in that crowd don't really care yet, right? So you have to talk to them. You have to communicate with them, not in a aggressive way, but in an inviting way. Like, hey man, I see some people sitting down. I love all y'all, so come a little bit closer. Da 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 da. Or even like communicating with them to get an emotion out of them. Like one thing I did. Have a song in talking too much within that song. There's a part where I'm talking about like where I got a ticket from the police, and I was like, "Who's been fucked over by 12 before?" And then people relate to that, and then they come forward, and they show me some love. You know what I mean? So those are a few tips for people who are performing, but definitely get onto it and don't beat yourself up because I'm still ass. Like there's still work to do. You know what I mean? There's I was watching my older videos. Performing like 2 years ago, and I was cringing. I was so bad, bro. You know what I'm saying? So it takes time, man. Even with music, it takes time.
Yeah. Like I know with like some artists too, like I think they go all in, like whether like they do like certain shows and all that. Like I know Netspend and like Two Hollis, they have like a lot of like crazy shows for the most part too, like where they have like a lot of energy. Others it's like, they're not doing as much, like the Luckies, the Dave Blunts as much too. So and then there's like others that are like kinda like in the middle and all that too. So like for like even like an artist like yourself or like anyone else, like do you try to achieve it like in a way where you have to have like as like much like high energy as like possible and all that?
I think it just depends on the song. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, what you have to do at a show is stand out. You know, it's competitive. It's rap. Like you have to be the one person everybody remembers beside their friend compared to the other artists, right? And like I learned this at different shows. Like when I was doing Burner Set early on, Walter Florence, I learned that from him. I sent him a message. He's a great guy. He was like a star, you know. He drew that energy because he came off like a star. That was something I learned so much that day when I saw him perform and just behave as a whole. I think other times when I was performing with, who was it with? Oh, one time we had Young Tory pull up.
All right.
And just the way they were so wavy about it, like they were like almost like it was too easy for them, you know. They were dancing and shit, and like it was a memorable performance compared to most other artists. So I think it's very important to have those moments that make you memorable beyond music, because your music could be insane, but people don't just remember music.
Yeah. Oh, that's facts, man. And you know, to even like speak more on the whole like Toronto like underground scene and all that too, because there's like the state that it is like very like interesting too, with like all these like platforms too. So how do you feel about that state, especially with like platforms like First Class, DieselCon, like Vampires Prom, Social Outcasts, like even like taking over and all that?
Great, man. More love to them and more blessings to them. I mean, like with Diesel, I haven't interacted with Shaq himself too much, but from what I've seen, he's such a good guy and such an authentic guy. Like he doesn't do this shit for a quick buck. Like he really wants to change culture. And like Jake Harris, who was on Burning as well, like he works for him right now in his studio, and even like putting on Jake as like an engineer, that just shows like his investment in somebody who hadn't done much yet, and taking him to a point where he's working with big names in the underground, right? And I think somebody like, because I can't talk about Vampire Prime and all them too much because I haven't like been to one necessarily, like haven't seen it like that, but specifically like Shaq Diesel and like Diesel Fest as a whole, amazing to see, man. Amazing to see that in a city where like sometimes it feels a little hopeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, know what you mean, man. Like even like defining like your role like in the Toronto like underground, like how do you like even define that and the impact like you made like so far?
How would I define the impact itself?
Like your role, like for the most part, too, like in the scene.
I think, I mean, like I'm definitely upcoming still, but my goal is to eventually disassociate with the underground itself and be more of like a front runner in Toronto first, right? But right now, like definitely like finally, you know, made a little bit of a name for myself. Like if you tell somebody, oh yeah, I did this with Real, like they're gonna know who it is most likely. So, you know, it's good to see that. It's good to feel that. I think definitely got a lot of more work to do, and definitely got to give something back to it now because got put on by Coded, got put on by this guy, that guy, did features with these people. So now it's time to like do something for the underground. You know what I mean? Like I think it's that time finally where I give back a little bit, and what I will do for that is kind of just show them a little bit of a pathway, because I got big things planned in terms of like especially branding, right? And I want people to analyze and study this eventually when it starts happening. You know what I mean? So that's something huge that I want to do for the underground.
That's facts, man. Like I know with Toronto and like, you know, Canada too, like the music scene, like it is like very like interesting right now, what's being like released and all that too. So like how do you feel about the current state of the Toronto Canadian like music scene? Do you feel like there should be some changes in the direction of where the scene should go to, or do you feel like it's fine the way it is?
I think a few problems that we have, first and foremost, like everybody runs away to America, right? Like that's a big issue, but it's understandable. I mean, at the end of the day, we live in a socialist country. You know what I mean? Like your max money is not going to be made here, so you got to move the fuck out to America eventually. But that brings up its own problems, like the fact that like there's not that many labels that could do something for you here. There's not that many industry people that could provide opportunities like that here, and the market is so saturated. That's a big part of it. I mean, like every market is saturated when it comes to music, but I think Toronto especially, because there's not that much space for people, right? Like if you talked about Atlanta, LA, yes, it's saturated, but there's a lot of opportunities too. I think that's one thing that needs to change. Like I think, and you can't ask this of the labels because it doesn't make sense for them. I think we need to start kind of like coming off more serious, man. A lot of people take Toronto as a joke. Unfortunately, it's really sad to see because I'm sure you've heard this. Oh, like a Toronto artist, a Toronto rapper. It's unfortunate, man. Like because there's so much talent out here, and you know, for those who are watching who have that same feeling, like look beyond the jokes, man. Go listen to somebody. You know, go listen to Wish. Go listen to Moneyway. Go listen to Young Vivid. Go listen to who are even, you know, other people from other genres. I think what needs to happen is we need to take ourselves a little bit more seriously, and we need to communicate that to the people too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like Sav, like I know he's like doing this like thing too with all like distinct like sound he's doing with Malvern.
Yeah.
And then I mean you have like Sad Boy, you have Quasi and all that. I mean, you have like some other acts too, like Felonious and like John Kapongo that are kind of like doing their thing too. So like it all like depends on the scene and all that too. And it, you know, I think like a lot of people are like catering to like different like cultures too, because you have like the whole like Toronto pop, like indie stuff, the rock sound, the country, and then I mean also you have the whole like Toronto underground too that we've talked about and all that too. So it all depends on like where you're gonna like cater to, like either way, and like which audience are like gonna like look for and all that. And I mean,
you mind if I flip something on you though?
Yeah.
What do you think we have a defined sound? Because I was talking about this on the Promudu podcast before. Do you think that like Toronto, especially let's talk about rap because I know that more close to my heart, right? Do you think we have a sound in Toronto that's like, yo, that's the Toronto sound? What do you think?
I feel like we do have an ideal sound too, like with like when we talk about like the whole like Drake, the Weeknd sound. Like I think that has been like the definite like sound for a bit to where it's like the cloud, like the dark cloud like sound and all that too, with the R&B, with the rap and all that too. You could even say that with like Smoke Dogg, Prime Boys, I mean Pressa, like back in the day and all that. And then I mean you also with like Drake and everyone else, because I know everyone was like trying to mimic that sound too. And like also they even like try to do that with the whole like Toronto like trap stuff too. Like I mean, even back in like 2015, 2016, people like 88 Glam like kind of blew up from that sound too. Jazz Cartier like kind of blew up from that sound. Sean Leon, G Miller, like a lot of those like other people like Dylan Ponders, they were using that sound and like they were like elevating it from there, and like they had like notoriety, fame, like they were like opening up for like a lot of artists, and like that was like the wave too. And then I think it kind of died down when like Smoke Dogg died, where you know like a lot of like street politics kind of came to an effect too, but even then, like that was like something that people were like tapped into. I know people still like look into Toronto R&B as like the main sound, like especially within the R&B community, where like there is like people checking out for like Toronto R&B artists. Like a lot of like R&B artists like in Toronto are making like big waves too. Now it's like now they're like looking into like different cities, like different entities and all that, where they want to find like the next big thing, whether it's like indigenous music or whether it's, you know, Punjabi music too, because now people are embracing like Punjabi music too, with Karan Arjula, Tesher, A.R. Paisley, like all those like other people too. Like now that's gonna be like the new wave, like the indigenous stuff with like Tia Wood and like also like Snotty Nose, like Redskins and all that. So like they're like looking at that people right now. So like it doesn't have to be about like Toronto like 24/7. Like even like Vancouver too. Like Vancouver's like getting some eyes too. There's like this young artist named Eric Reprid who kind of came from that Toronto sound, but he kind of made like a lane of his own, and like he's like blowing up like massively and all that too. I mean, you have like other artists like Boslin that are kind of like making their wave too. So it all depends on like where to like look at the market right now, because it shouldn't be just like Toronto like getting the eye, but it should be like other parts in like Canada as well, where we do need to get that exposure like either way. But like Toronto, like it still has to have like it's like focus too. So it all just depends on like who's like making that wave right now, whether it's like R&B or rap. And some like they don't have to like look into Toronto for that. They could like look into catering to like a different market and seeing like if it works and all that. And that's like something that I'd say the UK like music scene like also like lack too, because they're only looking at UK and Europe when they should be like looking at the States and like other parts too. Like
I see what you're saying.
Because like that's how like kind of like how Central C blew up, Dave, Stormzy, like all depends on like where to find like the right moments. And it's like, you know, knowing how to like utilize like social media, like knowing how to like look into different audiences too, like not saying too much, like emphasizing on the way you speak and all that, emphasizing on the contents, like subject matters, like it all like works out from there and all that. It doesn't have to be you're making like content 24/7, but like emphasizing it to seeing how this piece of content or this moment could actually blow up, rather than making like multitudes of like content or multitudes of sounds and all that. No, so
I see what you're saying. One thing Look, I think the R&B sound is what Toronto's known for. It's like, shout out Young Vivid because he says it make me sound underwater, right? Like it's like the underwater, like dark R&B shit. But my whole point was that, like, first of all, that's kind of all we are known for. And realistically, man, that sound is from how long ago? You know what I mean? Like, I think what I see in the underground personally, I see a lot of sexy drill. I see a lot of like rage. I see like some trap in there too. I think what needs to happen is like there needs to be a unity, and I said this before too. There needs to be a unity with like all these avenues, the way like Atlanta had trap, or like with Compton too, or like LA as a whole, right? New York with drill, right? Like, I think something like that needs to happen in Toronto now, and that's been one of my goals with like cinematic trap is kind of catering it a little bit to have that effect where I see other artists finally working on it too. But I think that's what we need to like make this city a little taken more seriously, because we're a very serious city, but I don't think everybody sees it that way.
Yeah.
And where that comes from is making a sound that's universal but also unique to us.
Yeah.
Like if you hear it, you need to hear Toronto.
Yeah. Like, I mean, even to add on, because like I know in the States they have like streamers and all that, where they have like Kai, Ty Lil, Phantom, Black Max, where they're giving like that moment to showcase like artists like within like different sounds and all that too. If we do have like a Toronto like streamer like that, like I know we have like DT Beats, we have like people like TSH Movement like doing their thing, Cienzo, but they're kind of catering it to their own like style and all that too. If we do have a Toronto version of like Black Max, where we do like a lot of like song wars, where there's gonna be like next man's like battling like song for song and all that, like having a judge in like the whole like live stream space, like that could like definitely like work and all that. Even having like different like underground artists too, like you could have like a Wish God versus like Sav 4X and all that. You could have 10K Moss and Wavy Jackson versus like 100 OTD and like K-Sad bands and all that, or like you could have like a Sad Boy versus like I don't know, like an Alexander Panetta or something like that too, or like a Pressa versus like Dazzy, or like, you know,
I hear that
type of stuff too. I think that could like work out either way too. Like it all just depends on who could be like that next Black Boy Max in Toronto, or could be someone that could like cater to that uniqueness too. Like even within the age of media too. Like I could like say this in my own sense too. Like I'm like 28, about to be 29 in like October and all that too, and like I'm around like, you know, like someone who's in like the whole like old head like phase for a bit too, and like you do have like other like Toronto media platforms where they're in that old head phase. They don't know the current state of like what the underground is and all that type of stuff too. So like even like giving that lane for like a lot of like younger people too, who can like cater to that sound too, whether they create their own podcasts or whether they create their own like platforms where they could like showcase that media, like that could work as well too, because you know the OGs, like they don't have to give the torch at any time. Like it's like, all right, why don't we cater to something that could work within like these communities and like intermingle like in that sense to cross collab, all that type of stuff too. So
no, I think that's huge, and I think this is something that falls on you a little bit. It falls on TSH a little bit, because TSH is an example, man. I talked to this guy way back randomly on Omegle. We were just bullshitting, and then that's how I met this guy. But like TSH is one of those guys that has the energy to do that. What I found with him is that maybe like he hasn't found that one thing yet that's stuck with people, because he's a personality, man. And you had him on the pod as well, if I'm not tripping. Yeah. Like he's one of those guys where like I love watching clips of him because he's jokes for real. I think he should, man. TSH, you should be the pioneer of that, man. You could do something like that for sure, with like collabs with artists and shit, and do kind of what not to copy off him or bite off his style, but like kind of do what he's doing here, you know, with Toronto, like the Toronto version of that. The same way like we had the Toronto Blind Dates. Oh, bro, the Jamaican ones were so funny too. Like, you know, like kind of making that, but for the Toronto scene, you know what I mean? Or like yourself too, man. Like, I think great idea. You do it now. You execute it, man. It's possible for sure.
Build like my own like streaming room, or like borrow like someone's like streaming like area where I could do like Twitch and all that, and like, you know, see if it works and all that. You know,
I think it's a good idea for sure.
It all depends. Like even like, you know, like interacting with people too. Like I know with me, like I think that could work too, and also like having like, you know, certain judges for that platform, because I've actually had people that had like an extensive like background within like music and within like culture too. So having their input like on some of these like songs too, like it can also give feedback to see like how like the youth and like all the artists like can improve like in their sound too, like whether if they're doing a great job or whether they need like something to improve and all that too, because you also do need like the OGs as well to like give game to kind of give
Facts.
examples to, because I think that is like what Toronto's like lacking right now. Because in LA, I actually spoke with this like one artist like a while back too, like a long time ago, where they have like an OG system where they listen to their OGs, like follow what they say and all that. Like not a lot of people like in Toronto respect the OGs, like because they're gonna see like the OG, like hey, they haven't made it, so we're gonna assume that they're hating and all that, or
Right. I
like
see what you're
they
saying.
don't have like the knowledge or understanding to even give game and all that. But it could also intermingle like in some cases too, like from what they seen to like not get extorted or to like not fall
Facts.
into the trap and all that. Like they could give that game so that they can also follow through in that same step too, to kind of like not fall into that path and like work either way, you know. So
I think. Do you think there's a problem? I feel like could be the fact that there's such a big gap between like the underground here and Drake. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I think that could even don't even like let's not even let's say like Pressa or Killy. I feel like there's a big gap between them and like the underground or like artists like myself. I think that's a big part of it, man. Cause I feel like we lack the proper stages to then be like, you know, like have somebody mentor you in a way. Does that make sense? So like, I mean, there is some, but
yeah.
because the gaps are so large, it's hard to then make that connection with that somebody who's a little bit bigger than you to kind of mentor you through where you're at right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing, even with Quasi too, because Quasi also got co-signs from like Roy Woods, Baka, Smiley,
Yeah.
Killy, all those like people too who have made it, and
Facts.
Quasi is like around like the underground too. There have been like artists too that even gotten that co-sign too, where they still tap in with the underground, like here and there with Sad Boy,
Yeah.
you know, connecting with Drake for the most part too. Drake, like following like a lot of people like Snow Day and like Bugs and like all these other people too, where they do have like that connection to the underground too. So they are like paying attention, but it's not like I'm gonna give like this like free cosign. Like I'm gonna take this like person out of my wings. So I want to see them actually connect, and if I feel like it might be a great connection, like that could work like either way too, and all
Facts.
that. And I mean cross collabing could work too, but it has to depend on like the right circumstance and if that person is like genuinely like interested in like doing that too, because
Yeah.
everyone like has like a time of day where they have to focus on their own thing and all that too. So you need to find like that someone to like kind of influence, like give that idea and see if it could like work on their path and all that too. Because there have been like OGs that have been doing that too, like a lot of people like on the remix project, but you know, it all depends on like if they find it like within the right moment too. And I think even with programs too, like even like having like PR classes to teach people about like, you know, how to do journalism, how to run podcasts, how to become streamers and all that, like that could like work too. Like you don't need to do like grant writing or anything like that to kind of access these like resources too. Like we could create like programs like that where we don't need just like artists or like producers or engineers to come through and study our programs, but like people who are into like media, people who want to do like streaming, like all that type of stuff too. And like some people have been like making that lane too. And you know, if you find it on IG, like it'll be straightforward like in that sense too. So
I think definitely things like that would help. I think the main thing you said that I think would be huge would be like that link up between like you said the OGs and the fresh blood. You know what I mean? Because I mean look at somebody like Kendrick as an example where even on GNX the amount of like guys he put on from Compton and from you know LA as a whole, you kind of peep that you're like it doesn't make sense but it makes sense. You know like his you wouldn't expect Kendrick to like come through with certain sounds that he did on that album, and you know, like I think mixed feelings about the album from me personally too, but it's more about the idea of it, the idea behind it, where like he's putting on all these artists that not too many people know outside of LA or outside of California as a whole. I mean,
yeah, I mean we can't put Drake within that force because it might not be within that interest too, but there is like someone that is like definitely doing with that. That could make that work. It just has to be like if they're like interested in that sense to even take it further too. Because I could also give like another example to the comedy scene, like the Toronto like comedy scene. Like I tap in with like a lot of people from there, like the OGs, like fuck with like the younger people and all that too, and like even like give like opportunities to do shows, to do everything like that. Even EDM too, because it's all fostered within the community, within the idea of like plural, like positivity, like love, unity, and like respect and all that. Where it's like intermingled like all around, even with the pop scene, even with the country scene too. And that's something that does like lack in like hip hop and like rap within that sense, like not even like R&B and all that, because like with hip hop rap, it's the idea of like competition, ego,
it's
where
ruthless.
You know, I can't like lose my position to some kid who's like 18, 19, 20, and it's what can I do to not let that person like come on top and all that too? Because that's
Yeah,
how they're
for
feeling it right
sure.
now. But it should be like the opposite to what like things can I do to get them to elevate like in that sense where they can grow and where they could like rise and all that. And I think, plur is like really needed in hip hop and rap and all that too, where, that unity, respect, positivity, and love can work out either way. It doesn't have to be shown like in, like in a forced act, but
Mhm.
something that could be like as minor as, giving like studio recommendations and all that too, or like, recommending like certain platforms to check out too. And even I had
Facts.
a guest on the podcast a while back, and I told him like there are like some media platforms that are like doing like other interviews as well if you want to like tap into and like
Mm.
give them the references, or like if there's like an artist that if there's like someone that wants to like check out like certain stuff and all that too. Like I just like some hours back I gave this guy like at least like 4 Scarborough artists to check out from like a post I did from like IG2, and like he wanted to find
Yeah.
out more about Scarborough artists too. So it all depends on like what you could give that shows like genuinity that follows within plur, and just kind of
and
works out.
and and at the end of the day, man, you get that back
Yeah,
because I mean, you shouldn't look at it that way. It shouldn't be like what can I get from this? That's fucking psychotic, right?
yeah,
It's a psychopath type of mentality.
yeah,
But when you let's talk about like the older generation in any industry and a new one when it comes to entertainment, you often see the ones that are like putting on the new artists, they share their fans and like maybe it's a situation where like the older guy, the one who's the veteran, has the system around him that he knows that he can recommend. But then the younger guy, he has all these like new young fans, right? Who was it that I'm thinking of that did something like this where it was like the old and the young, they linked, and then it turned into like the guy who was almost like forgotten about. He kind of, I'm forgetting.
like I know E40 has given back to like the Bay as well
Mm,
too, and
there
he
you
has
go.
worked with like a lot of like younger artists too. So E40 is like one example. Jim Jones is like another great example too, because
Yeah,
he's like that old head that everyone respects too. Like, I mean, fuck it, like the whole like Dipset crew and all that too, because I think with them, like they show like a lot of love to like a lot of the younger people that actually like
facts.
appreciate their sound too. Juicy J, because I think like a lot of sound like came from like Juicy J like back in the day and all that, and
Yeah,
Juicy, DJ Paul, they give back like that love through like cross cross collaborations and like everything else
facts.
too, whether it's like producing, whether it's like mixing, engineering too.
Or I think a big one that I just thought of that I think has come back to me now is Wayne, bro.
Yeah,
Because Wayne, it's weird with this guy because he's outlived like every generation, and I think it's largely got to do with him. First of all, learning how to adapt his sound, and also being cool with like putting people on and like
yeah.
coaching. Like I saw him just do a podcast with Corday, and Corday was talking about how like Wayne full on just like coached him. What was it? He was talking about how like he let him know, oh hey, don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
You got to make music like nobody's heard you before. Shit like that, where like that's genuinely why somebody like Wayne's lasted, but somebody like M, he went down this route of like, yo, fuck the new generation, and look at what
Yeah.
happened to him. Like the new generation just disrespect him for the
Yeah.
most part, right? So I think it's got to do with that a lot, and like
Yeah.
learning to adapt on like Wayne's behalf and showing that love back. You know what I mean?
I feel like Wayne is good, but I wouldn't put him like in that example too, because Wayne follows within like his own like footpath and all that too, with his own footsteps, where he's like kind of like deeped out of like he's like kind of like tapped out with like a lot of the stuff going on, but he does respect it in like tangents in that sense too. If I want to give like a proper example, I'd definitely say like Gucci Mane too. Like I know with
Yeah.
1017, like he has put like a lot of like younger artists on. Like
Facts.
I know he put like a lot of artists like from Memphis and like from Arkansas too, and like he shows that love, just like a lot of like features as well with like the younger like generation. And
Facts.
I think it's like like a lot of artists that people like pay homage to. So like the Juicy J's, the Free Six Mafias, the Dipsets, the
Facts.
E40s, the Gucci's, because like those people actually appreciate the sound that's coming on. Like
Yeah.
even people like with T-Pain, like it's good and bad at the same time too, because T-Pain can give like a feature to like a younger artist that he respects and values, but he's not gonna adapt like certain sounds that kind of mimic him in that sense too, where
Yeah.
like the whole like T-Pain and like Future situation where he didn't appreciate like Future taking that sound too, because he was once crucified for like doing like autotune. Like Usher like hated on him, like
Yeah,
hated his
yeah.
like guts and all that too. And like I mean Jay-Z like did like Death of Autotune too, where he dissed like T-Pain. you like not like literally, but like within the sense of like autotune and all that. Like Future got praised like later on too, like with the autotune. At first, like people shitted on him because of the way he sounded like back in like 2012, 2015. But
Yeah.
now he's like the most like beloved like figure like in hip hop. Whereas with T-Pain, he didn't get that love until like several years like later on. All the
Yeah. Well, I think that probably comes from also the fact that like hip hop, I think evolves faster than other genres from my experience. You know what I mean? I think other genres take longer time to like look at country as an example. I mean, maybe a way out there example, but like I don't think country's evolved the way something like hip hop has, or I mean pop has for sure. Pop has evolved fast, but there's those genres like that where like they evolve slower, and I think it's weird with hip hop, as much as it is that like ruthlessness, I think new sounds take on much quicker, you know, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know we just have like a couple like final questions too. So
Yeah.
usually I always like ask this question like more so recently within this year and like last year too. So we have like a lot of people that want to like listen to music, check out music, like want to find out like who's like the next like up and coming like artist and all that too. Like who's like the next sound to like tap in with. So like let's say someone from like Sao Paulo, Brazil, or let's say someone from like Arlington, Virginia, like wants to like find like the next like up and coming artist, whether it's from Toronto, whether it's from Vancouver, whether it's from like Bora Bora or whatsoever. Like name like free songs like in your catalog that you would recommend for any person that hasn't really like heard about you before, or that would like to know more about you, like in that sense.
Yeah, man. Well, my catalog is honestly very limited, but if you're trying to discover my vision, my identity, and my message as an artist, I think Talking Too Much and Burning, and the one that's on the way that'll drop within probably like a month and a half. These are the tracks that you can check out to kind of see what I'm all about. Look, at the end of the day, I'm trying to teach all my audience and all the listeners how to hustle. You know what I mean? And, like make it out and adopt a mentality of like wanting more. You know, at the end of the day, we live in a city, in a system, in a world where the powerful will always try to keep the riches away from you, and the only thing you can do is adopt that relentless pursuit of greatness. And we're all about greatness, you know, with me, my team, my people. We're trying to promote greatness, and you trying to be that perfect version of you. You know what I mean? So those are the tracks you guys can check out. And then eventually when the new one drops, which is gonna be like the biggest one yet, you guys can hear that as well, and kind of get a sense of what I do. And if you're fucking with me, yeah, I'm glad to have you guys on board. You feel me?
That's facts, man. As far as like your plans for this year, like what do you have like in terms of like any other music, creative projects, and so forth? And do you have any closing remarks you'd like to say?
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate you putting me on and having me on here, because I've been seeing these episodes and I've been enjoying them, and I've been really wanting to come out here. So I really appreciate that first and foremost. You know, praise God and seek God, and it'll help you throughout your entire life. And last but not least, for me in terms of projects, I've got something cooking with Kivra. She's an insane vocalist. We got like a crazy track for the summer that'll be, you know, released around summertime. My personal goal for the year is to get on this shit full time, not have to worry about the day job. You feel me? And that's what we're working towards. And yeah, man, if y'all trying to, you know, join the movement and become greater, then that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's facts, man. Real. It's dope having on, man. Like, very great conversation about, you know, like the aspect of music, like your journey, everything else too. And like, it is like amazing to see from what I've like learned and like what I've like tapped in with. And, you know, I wish like nothing but the best for you.
Thank
for
you,
your
brother.
career, for like your future, like everything like that. And like, you know, we'll definitely have you back on, you know, and like, I definitely want to see like that rise. Like, even like being at a point to where, you know, you're doing like mid-size like venues too. Like, I definitely want to see that, you know, so.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate it. Hey, same for you, man. I've seen, guys, one thing about this podcast and this movement as a whole, very professional. Very professional. So if you guys want to have a podcast that you always save, that you always look out for, and you're a fan of music, this is the one to do that. And yeah, man, God bless you.
Yeah. I thank you, man. I really appreciate that either way, you know, and like, I wish something but the best either way, you know, but
thank you.
Yo, this is Josh, also known as Yashu, another episode of TLOY Talks podcast. You can get this on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Buzzsprout, Patreon, much more. We have a lot of people that come on the podcast. We've had comedians, we've had like ex-convicts, we have artists, like a lot for the most part. We have people that have like played sports and all that. People who've had like interesting journeys, like from their start until now. I mean, we've had like music executives and all that too. We've had like a lot of people, even people from like well-known rock bands and all that too, and like even major producers and like major artists too, and socialites, IG models. Like you're gonna get all that content from there. Like even with Rio too, like he's like one of the legendary artists that on the rise that's been doing this thing with the music, everything else too. So definitely check this
Love,
out.
man, love.
Definitely check out every other episode that has been on the platform and all that too, or like every other interview, every other piece of content. And gonna sign this off right here. This is Josh, also known as Yashu with Rio, signing off.
Yes, sir. Peace out.